and we are in Practicum weekend, or, Practicum 11, I believe. We have a lot of people missing, seemingly, although I've heard of no one other than Michelle who is not going to be joining us today. Michelle is feeling sick or not well this morning, and so she's going to take the day off. And oh, no, she's not. I guess she's coming in. That's so cool. Hi, Michelle. I was just telling people that you're not going to be around, but you're here. It's good to see you. And feel free to drop off. Carmen's here, or she was. Oh, yeah, she is. But she just wasn't responding to that message. Okay, so almost all of us here. Are you aware of anyone not being able to join us? No. Okay. So
Stephanie
maybe people.
wrote in the group that she can't come. Stephanie wrote that she
Stephanie.
can't come.
Oh, she can be here. Okay. In the group. Okay. Good to know. And oh, now I'm seeing the chat. Thank you. I wasn't looking. All right, people. So I want to share a few things with you, just some announcements to get out of the way before we move into the fabric of today's explorations. So I've gotten some, I've been in conversation with some of you, and I'm realizing, August is a really obviously time for resting and traveling and summer situations. And I've also been sick over the past few days, and I've been really forced to be a resting woman. And what I've decided to offer you is to have the rest of August free of having to do a quiz and to, have this obligation. And you will receive the quiz by, maybe looking at my notes, by August 26th. And it will be due by August 6th. That's not true now. Like I'm wanting to say August 26th and then due by September 16th. So that means you're going to have 3 and not 2 weeks, and you're going to have time in September. And I just wanted to give you that extra time and move it to September as well, because it's kind of like no pressure, but like a final exam, right? It just like gives you the chance to have an overview, like a review of everything we've been going through the last months, ever since the trauma weekend, which was a while ago. And so, um, yeah, it's going to be a chance for you to really dig back in a little bit and review your material and do the reading that you've missed and catch up on guest recordings, etc. Let me know if you have questions about that. And then Caitlin Naramore, who's our soulful business teacher, and we'll be teaching on how to initiate, ignite, and sustain our solo business ventures in the world as restful, aligned women. I was supposed to be recording her yesterday, and I was really not feeling well. So we rescheduled for the 25th, and so the recording will be a little later than expected, but so toward the end of the month, you will have that recording. And on the more positive side of things, we will have Genevieve Dow teaching us all the butterfly practice and coming back for a live meeting with us on September 10th, which was it's a Wednesday. It's on the calendar. And initially, that was going to be the day Andrea L. was going to guide us through a movement space, but she can no longer do it because of many other obligations. So we decided to invite Genevieve to do it. And she's very, very excited to do it and to meet with you again. And I'm very excited as well. So, yeah, if you can be there, you can be there. We're going to be recording the call as well. And oh, yeah, on the resource page, there's plenty of new resources now. They were a little late to come for this particular month, but you can see in the section there, there's an audio for those of you who are really interested in fleshing out the witnessing practices in your work and really emphasizing or offering more witnessing practices. I've offered an audio to just really speak more about who is the witness, how to instruct people to be a good witness, how to set up your movers for a good witnessing practice, how to hold it, those kind of things. So feel free to listen whenever you want. There's also a bonus audio, my interview with Dr. Ray Johnson on embodying. I don't remember exactly the name of the episode, but it's on liberating embodied oppression, basically addressing embodied oppression and social justice through the embodiment lens, how to begin a restorative process, like restoring ourselves from embodied oppression and micro like aggressions, racial and otherwise, in the body. It's like really relevant to the subject today, which is inclusivity. And they are incredible. Dr. Ray Johnson, they use the they pronouns. They teach at the Pacifica Graduate Institute in California. It's a very renowned school for embodiment, like graduate embodiment studies and PhDs and stuff. And they teach on the faculty there on the same subject. So a really valuable voice in the community on the matter. And I'm seeing Nadia Maus are not here. That's really unfortunate. I haven't heard from anybody today, so I'm not sure what to make of it. But okay, so that's on the resources available there. There are more resources too. I'm not going to list them all. Um, okay, any questions or clarifications on the things I just named? Let me know. And all right. So today I wanted to offer, seems like it's going to be, no, it's not our last practicum, it's the one before last, but I wanted to offer a practicum and really a deeper exploration on the subjects of inclusivity, because there's so much in inclusivity when you think about it through the lens of embodiment that you may not even have considered as inclusivity, but it's critical to the quality of your facilitation, to the deep body lineage. I think that that's one of our core principles, is to be a really, really inclusive facilitators and practitioners. And yeah, so I want to offer initially a welcoming through the inclusivity lens. So I'm going to welcome you into the practice today. Then we will have a discussion about it. You will share your own experience about where you have felt included in shared spaces and where you have felt excluded and not seen and acknowledged in shared spaces. And we're going to take it from there, but we're just going to have more possibilities to practice our thinking around it, our wording and language as we facilitate people in the inclusivity environment, in an inclusive environment. So I'm going to just start by giving an example, and then we're going to talk about what it is, like what's inclusivity. So just to invite you into this, it's not even going to be a practice. I'm just going to welcome you into into our space today, by acknowledging things that I don't explicitly often acknowledge when we are together. But I would often do this in workshops with new groups and people. Yeah. And so, what I'm inviting you to do, or to notice specifically in your bodies, is how specific identities that I may name here relate to and light up in particular places in your body, or you recognize as, oh, I name maybe an identity or a quality, and your body tenses up or trembles, or you feel warm in response in a particular place of your body as I name specific things. Does this make sense? So just notice your body. And so I invite you, as I do this, to you can you can close your eyes, you can keep your eyes open. It's really up to you. And I just want to welcome you into our workshop today, into our practice space today. And I guess as we begin, I want to acknowledge and honor and welcome the fullness of who is here and who we are together, and all that you are and all that you might be bringing in your body, in your history, and in your present moment. And I want you to know that you are welcome here, whatever the shape and the size of your body is. Whether you're thin or strong or muscular or soft and weak, whether you may have considered yourself or heard labels for yourself as thick or fat or big or small or to this or to that, you are welcome with us to be just as you are. Just as you are. And whatever age or life stage you are in, whether you're thinking of yourself as beyond your peak, or messed up by peri or after menopause, or whatever the life stage, or not old enough yet to get it, right? I want you to please feel fully welcome to this space. And whether your body is able or limited in any way, whether you are in the full range of your body or whether you are limited by illness or disability, visible or invisible, right? Because a lot of our illnesses and issues and aches and pains are not visible. We can't tell, and we're very good at hiding them. So I want you to know that however you come to this space, by way of illness or by way of disability or by way of ability, I want you to be welcome here to participate at your exact level of comfort and ability. And those of you who come to us from full ability in your body or near full ability in your body, I want you to consider that there are others with us in the space that do not have the full ability of their bodies. They have chronic conditions, that have chronic ache and pain. And so that's something to hold together. Yeah. And I want you to feel fully welcome here. Whether you are queer or gender expansive or gender fluid, or even if words can never come close to expressing your relationship with the spirit of gender and sexuality in your body, I want you to know that you're okay here, that you're welcome here, that this space is not only for the female anatomy or for the female presenting or identifying people. And I want you to know, and this is really important, that you're welcome here, whatever your cultural background or race or ethnicity you come from. And in fact, I welcome you and your ancestors to be in circle with us. And I welcome you and those of you who have journeyed here from somewhere else, who, like myself, for a very long time have felt like an immigrant somewhere, or a refugee, or a migrant, or like a double spirit of two different lands, two different pasts. And I want those of you who feel like that you belong to a land, that you have not migrated anywhere, to feel maybe with us the vulnerability of what it is to also be a marginalized community, like a migrant or a refugee or an immigrant somewhere. To have an accent, to not be able to speak the language fully and to express yourself fluently, right? So we're welcoming that, and not to feel bad or good or worse or better, but just to acknowledge the range of who we are. And I really want to invite also the spirit of the ancestors of the lands that we're on, right? Because the lands, they've experienced much occupation too, like us. And so I can go on, and I think I just want to say whatever religion or non-religion belief you hold, whatever pagan or earth-based or pragmatic, secular inclinations you hold, you are welcome here, even if you have been judged for it in other environments. And I think lastly, and very importantly, please know that this is a space for whatever, for, as I said, your chronic illness, your chronic pain, they're welcome here. And whatever your mental health experiences have been recently, however you feel about that, that is welcome here. Whatever you're struggling with right now, broken heart, rage, longing, joy, grief, that is welcome here. And I think we have space for it all together. So welcome to the space. Just as you are, and for all that you are. Sending a good deep breath into the earth beneath you and towards all of us holding the space together. Really holding these essential flavors of self and community, and past and present, our histories, our oppressions, our liberations, our hopes. Holding it together into the net of our community. And feel free to open your eyes when you wish, or keep them closed as you wish. And if you are tender and if tears are rolling, feel free to stay in that place, because there's no reason to toughen up, but just to be as we are. And so next, I want to invite you to write down a couple of notes for yourself or just to take even like a mental note, a body note on what identity, naming of which one really, really brought the first tears to your eyes, or the most tenderness, or the most recognition in your body. And you can just kind of rank them up, start with the most tender one, and then maybe another one that resonated. And maybe just a note next to that identity. How you felt it in the body, how you feel it in the body right now. Tender, stiff, scared, hopeful, trembling. And if it's difficult to understand what I'm asking, please don't hesitate to ask clarification. Carmen. Carmen, were you going to ask a question? No.
I don't know if it was just for me, but your voice was suddenly lower. I couldn't hear you as well.
How about now?
No, it's good. Yeah.
Okay. And then maybe you can offer some of these identities, especially the one or the couple of identities that you feel most touched by, therefore most recognize yourself in, where you may be, yeah, just that lit up for you, or that your body signaled some response to. You can put those in the chat. Or you can also unmute yourself and share a little bit about one of those identities that's at the top of your mind right now, because that would be really helpful for our process. What I mean by identities is, the one with chronic illness is an identity. The immigrant in a country is an identity. The one who was always scorned for being big bodied, right? Or judges myself for being big bodied, right? These are identities that can be the most tender for some of us, different for each one. Or my racial ethnicity, it just always creates something for me, right? Nina says, okay. Mouse says chronic pain, invisible injury. So tender, that one, right? Right. And Erica, do you want to add one as well?
Yes, child of an immigrant is one. When you think you mentioned being in between cultures, so being a child of one of immigrants, and then in being in another country, you're neither here nor there, or in both sometimes, or one or the other, and you grow up putting what is it called, code switching between the two cultures, and so you lose yourself in this continuous code switching.
Totally. Thank you.
But it was a beautiful practice of the 30 seconds into it, it created such a welcoming, open space. It just reminded me how powerful it can be to name
Yes.
these identities and that this is a safe place for all of them. I found it very, very powerful.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you, Erica. Anna? Anna, did you want to share? Will you unmute, please?
Yes. So one identity that causes me a lot of problems, especially in these conscious spaces, is having diabetes. Because even when I ask in advance, many times it is not accommodated for, which is a very big problem when it is during retreats, because I cannot control the food. And yeah, that was like a very big one. Also, after I explained a lot about it, then surprise, we are skipping a meal today, and stuff like that. And obviously, I'm more shy about asking for food because of a big party that I have.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So it brings up all of these layers of what you may have worked your way through embracing and loving and accepting and all kinds of things around that inside of yourself. And you may have feel like fully whole and that with yourself. And yet when the world mirrors some level of that, you may begin feeling excluded, unnoticed, unacknowledged, inadequate even, right? Is that accurate?
Yeah, I say, and especially when there is a discussion about it, and then it's like retorted against me, like, "Oh, you should have said something," and stuff like that. When I'm actually worried that I said too much. So
Mm,
yeah,
mm,
it is
mm,
a big.
mm.
It's always a cause of friction.
Yeah. Anna, I'm just curious, I'm because you're saying this is a lived experience and actually shared spaces that you've encountered not just once. What have you found is helpful in a space that actually creates the opposite experience, where you feel included, acknowledged, and validated and welcomed?
Yeah, there was some very, very good inclusive spaces in which, like they've asked me in advance, they had prepared some specific things to, like botanical things to share, to partake with. So they asked me like, can you have alcohol? Can you have honey? All these kind of things, and even prepare the stuff alternative for what
Mm-hmm,
I could not have. Because
mm-hmm,
many times it's not that straightforward. Like I could have honey if I have it with someone with something else, but not by itself. So it's all like so they actually took the time to
yeah.
um, get to know it and also to prepare alternative and then remembered about it. It's not like when we said it once and then for all the next times it's like that was
Mm,
something that was really um, yeah really like gave me a good impression and made me feel very held.
beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. So this is really good learning, right? It's like, how is someone's chronic condition or level of disability or a level of feeling excluded, how is that corrected for, right? By someone remembering to pay attention, to check in on that, not just once, right? Remembering the details, remembering to actually acknowledge that there is someone different in the room or in the kitchen or in the, in the environment. And this is exactly what inclusivity is. It's about saying there are different things in the room with us. We are many different things, not just one thing. And a lot of those things are not visible. We don't think about them because people without type 1 diabetes or without chronic illness have the privilege of never having to think about it, or not having to think of it most of the time, and feeling well enough and with a wide enough range of eating diet regimen, to not have to worry about it. So inclusivity really is about realizing our own privilege as facilitators, even And then the privileges that so many of us carry when we all share a level of privilege, oftentimes a level of privilege and a level of disability or marginalization or weakness. So I'm going to just look at some other things in the chat and see how this further just educates us about what might be in the room with us, right? I think, where was I? Indigo says, I have also struggled with chronic aches and pains, mental health, and often myself as gender fluid. I love the presencing of ancestors too. So all of these things worked for you to not exclude the ancestors and the spirit of the lands, because so many lands are occupied. But when someone names that, and if it feels authentic, because sometimes people do that in a way. For me, I don't know, that like sometimes these things can be really performative and like a little too much. But yeah, they can really soothe us, in a space, these kind of acknowledgments. Irmak says chronic pain and invisible injury. I thought that was that's Irmak and Mouse. I'm surprised that we're not seeing more identities from other participants. Like, I'm just really curious to hear about more. Like, so if you've got one, claim one, let us know. Maybe just one word. And Nina M says, racial and cultural background. And when you mentioned that the ancestors are also welcome, I felt a deep relaxation in my back and my womb opening. Oh, so good. Carmen, would you like to name one?
I was noticing how my body was reacting to you welcoming all of us in so many ways. So it works not just when I recognize the things that you're naming, but also that I feel that everyone and every aspect of them is welcome. So I felt really moved by that calling in our wholeness and our community. And every time you mentioned the word together, I felt my body just so warm and full and trembling, like the sensitivity.
Yeah. Oh, that's so important. Thank you. Right. So, yeah, beautiful learning here for all of us as facilitators. Every time, like everyone is welcome, although that may not be me. I may not be an immigrant or a chronic illness bearer or, a gender fluid person or a marginalized queer person, right? But I hear them acknowledged and I feel safer and more comfortable myself, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Carmen. Michelle, what did you want to add?
Yeah, I can piggyback on that, that as a caretaker, to know that everyone in the room is being taken care of through this inclusivity supports my system to relax that much more. I think the other, I agree with anytime the ancestors are mentioned, like I noticed myself just relax and like, oh yeah, they're here, you know. The other piece that really stood out to me was at the end when you encouraged us to bring in our current emotional experience. Um, I know in a lot of spaces, you know, it's an invitation to take off the mask. And I don't remember your exact words, but like there's no need to toughen up here. You get to just be with. And I know for some people, you know, their pain is like not being able to be in pain. That is the pain, is that I have to make you feel more comfortable by not bringing in my rage, by not bringing in my sadness or my physical pain, or you know, whatever it is, and to have that be allowed. um Ever since I met you, I think that has been one of the key elements that has kept me in this work over and over and over again, is just this overt permission to bring it all, and that it really is allowed.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. That's such a good just in a nutshell, like how we can really think about that in the work as facilitators. Beautiful. Mouse bird.
Um, more identities are coming in, and one thing that I feel like could be named or that I might name is addiction. Either, you know, if you've struggled with addiction or you grew up in a family, have a family lineage of addiction, or even jail. If you've been to jail or experienced things with the law, or veterans or political ideologies, whatever the political ideologies, I feel like the political landscapes are so programmed into divisiveness and opposition, and yeah, those are some more sort of identities that were coming in that can be so taboo, that can be so scary to name, to claim the identity of, you know, somebody who's an addict or somebody who's been to jail or somebody who, you know, is carrying this thing that they don't want anybody to know about. Yeah.
Thank you, Mouse. Yeah, that's so
Mhm.
important. The exiled ones, the ones that have been in exile, are continuously in exile in the collective psyche. You know, the addict, the prisoner, the veteran, the marginalized one, the thief. You know, yeah, the criminal. Anna, what do you want to add to that?
Yes, another thing that came up was that's similar to the concept of safe space, that is not just about saying that it is safe, but about really making it safe. I think that's also true for the inclusivity. And
Mm-hmm.
for me, it really helped that you made this speech after I already knew that you actually created this inclusivity and you had been demonstrating it all like along all the time. Um, but if it was like without any previous experience with you, I would be feeling like, yeah, everyone says that. And then they have chairs where I cannot sit and stuff like that, you know?
Oh, I.
So,
Mhm.
yeah. So, yes, for me, it is really important, especially when someone calls a specific underprivileged category, that they really think about, okay, but did I really make sure that they can actually participate and not just to say that they are welcome?
Right. Yeah. Thank you. That's so important, right? Let's not assume that we can just sit there in a room full of people that's completely new to us and just recite these beautiful things
Mhm.
and you know, feel like, oh, they're just gonna land and we're gonna just, it's not, this is not just to tickle our ego and to make sure that we sound like a really good facilitator, but to actually assure that we're holding a space for this. So as Anna was just saying, like if you're going to actually be holding space for people with different abilities and even asking people to be kneeling on the floor, make sure to have back jacks or chairs, because some people can get on their knees, right? Or they can't sit up, or they can't stand up for extended periods of time, right? And you may say things like just inclusivity, just consider all of the ranges of inclusivity you actually do want to invite. And if you're not inviting and cannot invite levels of disability, you may have to be explicit about it. Um, and, actually name that, a certain level of ability is required. Andrea L.
I have two things to say. I very much loved this togetherness, as Carmen also said. That is something that to which I react in a very good way when I feel we are all different but still welcomed in our diversity. And I also react very much when you invited to the fragility in us. You said if you're weak today, you don't have to be strong, especially, or something like that. You can really be as you are. I really react a lot of this permission and allowing how we are beyond all the identity you named, because I think the identity of a soul is so much bigger than all the identities you mentioned. I mean, that is unnameable. It's really unnameable. It's beyond gender, beyond color, beyond history. It's beyond so much. There is this eternal dimension we cannot even grasp by words. And then another thing I think we haven't mentioned is the financial and the social status. I mean, a lot of people, they can't even listen to this call or coming to this training because they have financial barriers. I mean, they cannot afford that. And we exclude them. That is also not inclusivity. I mean, that is all already a privilege to be in this group and to have a certain school, build, education, etc., to be able to speak English, even if you have another mother tongue, etc. I mean, we are already in a privileged realm and circle. We have to. I mean, we are aware, but I still think it's important to name it.
Thank you, Andrea. I mean, the conversation about privilege is absolutely endless, I think, and it's such an ocean. And I think that it does matter to consider them together, privilege and inclusivity, and to also consider that we will never be entirely inclusive. It is literally impossible. And to also just know that we can be both privileged and inclusive, right? Like it just to kind of hold the, not to negate anything that you're saying, but just to really kind of follow up on what you're saying. I feel it's really important to know and question our privileges, and to also know that we can create inclusive spaces based on the privilege we know we question, right? And so, for example, if I'm creating a training that not everybody can afford, I have created a really good number of scholarships and payment plans. And, like many of you know that we've made all kinds of things possible for you to be here. So, right, like just saying that there's like a lot of different layers to consider. But I think that I want to stay focused right now on the inclusivity bit, which always comes hand in hand with privilege, indeed. But how to create an inclusive environment. Irmag, do you want to add something to that?
Yeah, what I wanted to add is after I think what Anna added, marital status came into my mind. Like if you're a lonely person that has never married, or like you are divorced or married, or like something like that.
Right. Sure.
Like,
I mean,
yeah,
we can,
it's just,
yeah.
yeah, it just, yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Just need
Sure. We like
something.
there's so many different identities, right? That and people like struggles, inner struggles, or maybe people who are going through menopause even right now and are feeling marginalized in that way, or people who are menstruating but have to go to work. But I think that when we think about creative and inclusive space, when we begin with including the generally marginalized groups and creating an inclusive space for them, and create a body sovereignty language, in other words, permission for everyone to be as they are, we are really, instead of having to, because it's going to take us 5 hours to name every possible identity, right? But as we begin naming the main groups, right? The marginalized peoples that they're most commonly excluded in environments that we frequent, right? We are beginning then to really center an inclusive environment. And so I want to come back to these 6 anchors of inclusivity just so we can review them again together, or maybe you can help me review them without me putting them in the chat. Maybe you can tell me the ones you remember, but I think I just named one, and I think that's one that people don't normally think about as inclusivity. But for me, this is in embodiment. This is the first one, and it's about body sovereignty. Can someone remind me in a nutshell what body sovereignty was about in the inclusivity lens that we spoke about last time, if you remember? What is body sovereignty when we
Agency and permission.
Yes.
agency and permission, say Erica and Anna? Yes. Agency and permission. What does that mean exactly as a facilitator? What do we do? We reinforce those things, right? We provide language and a facilitation that centers the person's body and person as the central authority in the room. I
Yes.
may be the teacher, but you know what is best for you. I may be asking you to close your eyes or to run through the room, but your body knows what your ability is. Only your body knows. Please honor that. Please know that that's the most important thing for me as a facilitator. Right? You may say, I may give you a body break, an official body break in an hour and a half from now. Please know that when your body needs one, you're so welcome to take one. Take a break when you need to, right? So centering choice, agency, permission in every possible way, all the time. I may add things, sometimes people do feel a permission in a way that really disrupts the environment and the group. People walk in and out of a very deep journey all the time. They feel like, oh, the journey is too deep, so I'm just gonna, like, I can't do this right now, so I'm gonna check out and I'm gonna go and look out of the window, or I'm gonna walk outside and squeak the door and then come back and be loud, and then I will actually make sure to say things like, do take care of yourself. You have the freedom here. However, please do so in a way that honors the space, honors the community, and respects the journey others are in. So, you always have the power to shape the environment while staying permissive. So body sovereignty, right? We're giving the body and the person are the most powerful thing in the room. You have the freedom. The freedom is yours. The sovereignty is yours. If this environment is not healthy for you, feel free to walk out anytime or bring it up with us so we can address it. If you feel something's going off course, let's address it. Let's create a room. Let's create room for repair in this space, right? That kind of stuff. Indigo, what do you have to add?
Yeah, well, first I just want to echo what you just said because I thought it landed so much of there's room for repair, and I think that that's just a really beautiful thing I hadn't even considered. But also just the simple thing of having everyone presence themselves in the space with their name or some sort of share. It can't happen in every environment and every amount of time, but I think especially when creating a group, having everyone be able to speak into the space is a way of creating that sense of participation, inclusiveness, belonging.
Beautiful. Yes, 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 yes. And that is a tricky one too. Just depend, like you absolutely have to do it, but you have to do it in a really like measured way. So you kind of want to know when you're going to open that pot, like where everybody's like, yeah, let's bring our voices in, like it is like something you need to still balance well. But absolutely, people inviting people's voices in, always inviting them in. Beautiful one. Thank you for that. So if we, oh, Nina, like I'm not following the chat, but centering choice in their meditations, yeah, authority of the own body, beautiful, yeah. So exactly what we're talking about. So just to center, what I want to do is center the rest of the anchors of inclusivity and embodiment facilitation again, look at them, and I want to spend some time workshopping with you on these particular principles, like what language may you find in order to really serve these principles of inclusivity in the environments that you lead. So let's look at the 6 anchors together again. And then we can, let's see if we can go through all of them today. And I'm going to give you more reading, both a reading material and more suggested reading on this. If you're someone who wants to expand in this way. But today, this, we can just begin opening these doorways, just for you to really, really hold your own ground and holding inclusivity. Let me just ask you something though first. In a nutshell, why do we need inclusivity? What would you say? In the embodiment environment where we're going to be working with people's bodies, why do we need inclusivity? Can we just be like, hey, we're all bodies, we all have trauma, we all are people. Let's just move. It's safe here. Let's just go deep, come out and talk. Why can't we just do that? Maybe someone who hasn't been able to bring their voice in today, if you want to chime in, anybody. Erica says to help peel back the layers of the deep body. Sure. But how does inclusivity have to do with that?
So
Miles?
maybe I can expand a little bit. um, so when you create the safe, inclusive environment, you are facilitating the person who might be rigid, who might be holding on to an identity that has been put on them. So by creating that inclusivity and saying you're welcome here as you are, you allow they rest, relax, and they begin to open and open the layers.
Yes.
That's what I mean.
So what happens is what I think in some other ways to say the same thing, which is beautifully, which you're offering beautifully, is that, not everybody feels equally safe in a space. Not all bodies have had equal access to safety whatsoever. We all are bodies who come from diverse experiences shaped by intersecting identities, histories, and feelings of safety and belonging. And so, what we're doing with inclusivity is we're creating an awareness. We're telling people, I am aware that we all hold very different experiences. And let's all be aware that we're all bringing very different pains and experiences, right? And so by saying that, you're creating safety. I'm going to say this again, actually, because it's really simple, but it's super powerful. So, what you're doing when you're welcoming the range of identities, whether in a very short and brief and poignant way or in a more detailed way, as I did today, what you're doing is you're saying, as a facilitator, I am aware that not all of us have the same access to health or safety or belonging. And I invite us all to be aware together that we bring very diverse experiences of oppression, marginalization, illness, disability, feeling, addiction, and many, many other identities. So let's hold our human range together. You might even want to say many of us hold more privilege than others, right? And that would be an acknowledgement too. And in that way, you're creating a safe space. And it's also a brave space. Mouse, what do you want to add to that? Or did you have? Oh, you're muted.
Um, I mean, I feel like it's just like the mission of the deep body work is like we're creating inclusivity within our own bodies.
Mm.
Like
Mm.
we're like it, I mean, it just feels like this
Mm.
is the sort of foundation of what we're inviting with the work is to identify
Yeah.
and to create space for that to exist. Like, and so
Yeah.
then we learn how to move with it.
Right.
And so explicitly naming that, especially in the collective space, because I feel like embodiment work in the collective space when there's other bodies that we're engaging with and we're that are being witnessed to us or that we're witnessing, it gets even more complex when we're navigating the external and the internal and all the bridges and a certain body might be triggering something in us, an able body might be triggering something in us, or
Mm.
a body in pain, might be triggering something in us. And it's like, yeah, it just feels so foundational, and so explicitly naming
Mm.
these things is sort of part
Yes.
and parcel and key. Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah. True. 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 So, let me just look at this really quickly. The chat here, I said is naming, what's welcome, opening up, invitation. Um, it is a welcoming. It is a welcoming, and it is really important to hold like a very actively political, socio-economic lens on this as well, right? It's not just this spiritual inclusivity. It's a socioeconomic, political, ethnical diversity that we would love to honor. This is what we're doing. So what we're saying is not what we're saying, but what we're really considering is that, you know, that I mean, that like embodiment is not, it is not inherently just, right? Like I think I said this last time, and I think that's really important. Embodiment is not inherent, like there's no inherent justice in embodiment. We're not just opening our deep bodies to the same thing because race, gender, ability, size, cultural background, these are massive implications, have massive implications in how we experience our bodies, our histories, our traumas. So like, you know, I think it just, we need to be political about this. We need to not like sometimes like, in this new agey way, we can stay a little, like I'm just cautioning, like we could stay a bit more, we're all like, we're welcoming everybody. I invite you to stay a little edgier than that. Um, and I'm not responding to anyone in particular, but I just like, it got me going. Like I'm just going with the flow here. Um, there's like an edginess in recognizing our own privilege. For example, you may say something, and maybe I'm just going to go to the point of to the anchor about racial and ethnical, because I think that's really really charged a lot of the times in spaces. So one of the things that could be really powerful to speak out in a racially diverse space. Actually, let me ask you this first. Who here does not immediately and inherently identify as a white person? So notice that in an environment of people from 14 countries, one person raises their hand. And so we're sitting here in a room full of people who identify as white and therefore experience and move in the world as white. And yet we are preparing to potentially facilitate racially, ethnically diverse environments, which we are ethnically diverse, right? But who here, and just full honesty, who here has thought about the fact that we are all white, or are we all white, since the beginning of the training? Full honesty. Have you thought about it? Please raise your hand if you've thought about it once or twice. You've thought about it? That's amazing. Good. Because sometimes we don't even think about it. And when we walk into a room sometimes, from that context, and I don't think it's something I actually did, so my bad, right? But to walk into a room and say something like, not all bodies have had equal access to safety, or let's move in a way that honors our unique ancestral stories, or, I wrote down, I really wanted to give you like a good example. And I wrote something down today that came to mind, and I can't find it. But you may begin a space saying something like, so this is a space facilitated by a white facilitator, and yet welcoming and including, bodies of different ethnicities and races. And so I'm aware that I'm holding a certain standing that others do not, or certain privilege, or a certain maybe blind spots that other bodies here may be able to educate me about, or may show me things about, right? So you can explicitly name your whiteness in a space that you're noticing you're the only, or you have more than white people in, right? And that is a really soothing thing for people of color, or for people who are not identifying as white. Does this make sense when I say it? No. Can you comment? Can you like say yes or no? Does this make sense when I say it? Do you find it relevant? Do you find it important to? Not so much. People are hesitating. I'm so curious what's going through your minds. I mean, I see you, Nina, and I know you're on the same page. Just curious about what's going through other people's minds, where you're like, I don't think that's that important. Like, I don't, like, I'm just really curious about those experiences, and I'm not inviting them right now necessarily, but I would love to hear about them, maybe on the chat, or maybe when you have some space to think about it. Because, a huge part of white privilege is that you don't generally find it important to comment on things like that, right? Because you don't even consider privilege to be privilege, so like it's one of those endless conversations that I'm not going to go into today. But please do some poking in your own psyche around those things. They are very tiring. They require a lot of energy. And a lot of times it's a lot easier to say, oh, I'm so tired of it. Let's all be equal finally. It's the best way. But doesn't work that way. Carmen.
Yeah, I was thinking of that sort of blindness in my own experience of being the only white person in a group, in a community that gathers quite often, and feeling very much okay and not sort of different, until there was a new woman who really, I triggered her a lot, and it suddenly became very, very apparent to me that although I felt like I was part of the group, because she was new, she experienced the group quite differently than other women in the group. So it's also what I'm trying to say is sometimes you've built a certain trust in the group so that you don't explicitly sort of name these tags or these identities, and then when someone new comes in,
it can be very it can be very confusing. And so
Mm-hmm.
I was very confused by her reaction to me. And I
Yeah.
think a lot of our blindness as facilitators is we do focus on what we can see. So
Mm-hmm.
we might notice that someone has a disability that we can see, but we really and this seems like your invitation, we really need to challenge ourselves to look beyond that.
Yeah, I'm inviting a lifting of the lid on the blind spot, right? So just basically to begin becoming aware of what might be in the room with us, of what inevitably is always in the room with us. And this is what we're up to. So thank you for that, Carmen. That was a good example. So, you know, you may be teaching spaces for women for 2 years and not a single gender fluid woman comes, but then someone really wants to be in your space and they're a gender fluid person or someone who identifies as woman, but really their identity is like neither black or white and they don't want to be boxed as a sensual woman like this, you know, and you feel provoked to include them. So how will you do that, right? How will you create language that honors them instead of excludes them? It's how will you create language that keeps including as opposed to language that continues centering the centralized oppressor's course or the colonizer's language or the what else could we call it, just the kind of the paradigm, you know, because we're a facilitator, we're doing this and that's it, right? So my invitation is to continue opening up our ranges. And so here's oh, Nina, what is BIPOC? Oh, BIPOC is Black, Indigenous, uh, oh gosh, what? But Black, Indigenous? What's the P? Oh, people of color, of course. Yes, Black, Indigenous, people of color, BIPOC. Um, and Nina says, frankly, before going into a shared space, I spend a lot of time scanning what kind of space a person holds who is white. If the person is white, does the person address their whiteness or not in general? If they address privilege or if they hold space where BIPOC people feel welcome or not? Amazing, right? So, you know, let's talk about this in this way. I'm gonna do a little trick here with just give me a moment to create the little teams and we're gonna work on something in our separate teams. How many of us are here? Irmak, do you have 2 videos today again? Yes. Okay, so 15, 16, what does that make us? And then 15, 12. That's amazing. We have exact teams of 3. So it's going to take me a moment though. Carmen, here's what I'm going to do. Actually, I'm going to invite you to create the rooms. Oh no, but when you create the rooms, I can't see them. So no, that won't work. Hold on one moment. Michelle is there and I'm making you a co-host. Okay, now we're good. So I'm going to create 4 rooms. Perfect. So here are the teams. We're gonna have 4 different teams. And you're 4, sure, yeah, I think that's good. So Darren, Mouse, and Nina Robert are in one team. Yeah. Anna, Nicole, and Nina M in another team. Erica, Josefina, and Petra are in another team. And then we have Andrea L, Indigo, and Irmak in another team. And what I would love to invite you to do is, you know, and we're going to work on this together briefly, but then you're going to go into your breakout rooms and and I'm going to give you more guidelines for how to work in there. But so you each will work on one of the anchors and you're going to kind of brainstorm, body storm, some language, some invitations as a guide for how you may welcome or guide in movement or embodiment someone or people in a way that honors these inclusivity categories or identities. So we're going to work with one of the anchors will be, let's see which, because they're more than we want to tackle today, but I think I definitely want, how do you feel? Do you want to do body size and shape separately from body disability and axis? Should we do them separately? I think we should do them separate. Okay, perfect. No. Wait a minute. Why? Body size and shape is one, and then body ability and access is another. So illness, chronic conditions, disability is in one category, but body size and shape is another category. Why not, Nina? Do you want to say something about that?
Yeah, because for me, it all comes together in my
Not
case.
necessarily,
Yes,
though. Not
definitely.
necessarily.
Yes, it does. Because sometimes, or most of the time, I'm not able to do certain movements due to chronic pain and also to body size. So, I mean, of course you can separate it, but if you ask me, for my body, it comes together.
Yeah, of course, for your body it may come together, right? But what we're doing when we're separating these is we're thinking about, you know, body size and shape usually has to do with the body size and shape. And when we're talking about access and ability, we're talking about, for example, teaching womb work to women whose womb has been taken out, or teaching breast massage to a group of women, but one woman has their breast removed, or having in the room people who with chronic conditions who are also, the standard of, thinness, and so they're accepted as a body visibly in the world, but they have an invisible condition that makes them marginalized. Does this make sense to you?
Yes.
Great. So we're
Thanks for
trying.
clarifying.
Yeah, and they can be together. Absolutely, absolutely can be. And that's why I'm kind of hesitating. Maybe, and if you do create language, people, for those two together, that's okay. But so let's for now hold them separately. So we're gonna have one anchor being body size and shape. And is there any person here who would love to work on that, just as a personal interest? Can you raise your hand? And then we can give it to your team if you want to work on body size and shape inclusivity. No one's interested in that? I find it so fascinating. Awesome. So this includes body image, big bodies, large bodies, thin bodies, weak bodies, strong bodies, muscular bodies, less, like all of that stuff. So Indigo, you're raising your hand. That means your team will have that. Andrea, Irmak, Indigo will have that. And then we can work on gender inclusivity. And who here feels like you would love to work on that language of including gender identities into your work more? Yay, yay, Mouse. Okay, we're giving that to Darren, Mouse, and Nina, Rebea. And then we have the anchor of racial and cultural. Let's just say racial and ethnical. Let's just say racial and ethnical inclusivity. And who here feels like you would love to practice that, strengthen that muscle of racial and ethnical inclusivity? Right? Maybe let's see if Josefina, your team, yes, Erica, Josefina, and Petra can work on that. And then we have one last team, right? Do we? Anna, Nicole, and Nina M, who can work on body disability and access awareness. Okay. So I'm hesitating. Do I need to say more about these things before you actually practice language on your own? I think you can probably do it on your own, and you're probably better off that way. But let me know, is there any category that you'd love for me to just light it up a little bit And then you can just like go off of that. Is there anyone who here who feels a little unclear on any category, Mouse?
I feel like gender also like I feel like sexual orientation and gender are
Yeah.
sort of in the
Mm-hmm.
like yeah, I feel like
I would say they
together.
belong
Yeah,
there, yeah,
together.
in the same
Yeah.
category. Like maybe we should name it explicitly that is like sexual orientation and gender identity. Those are two different things, obviously, but they do kind of get grouped together in that way. And should I say a little more about it now? Do you want me to? Maybe. How about, so one thing I want to say, like, and I think this maybe is true for other anchors as well. But we generally, for all of the inclusivity things, we want to avoid assumptions. In the case of gender fluidity or sexual orientation, for example, we want to avoid gendered assumptions like do not assume that all female presenting people in your space identify as women. So you're in a new group of 10 women, they look like women, they present as women, and you call the women without asking, do you use the she pronouns? Do you identify as women? Should we talk about it? Let's talk about it. Does anyone here identify as gender fluid or otherwise? Let's begin there, maybe, right? Like if you want to hold a gender inclusive space, that's a really good place to begin. Another tool you have is that what I would do, and I think this is really beautiful to do, is to ask pronouns, but without requiring it. You can say, make space, you can say, let's make space for people to self-identify in a way that feels safe and authentic for them, right? Feel free to share your name and pronoun. But if you're using your gender belonging or gender matching or your whatever, I don't even know how to say it, honestly, my bad. But if you're using pronouns that we can, that come with your gender presenting identity or whatever, you can share your gender pronouns if you want, but you don't have to. Like, feel free to just not share them. I think that's because, like, I've noticed in spaces recently that, like, sometimes, 50 people being invited to go around and share their pronouns. And, like, I don't know if that's necessary. Maybe you find it necessary, and I encourage you to go to flow with that. But to basically avoid assumptions and inclusive terms like everyone here, all bodies, all of us hold trauma in the same way, right? Like if you say that, make sure to follow up with something that honors diversity. Are there any other questions about like any of these anchors and categories, Anna?
On the question about gender, there's something that I don't know, maybe someone could give me more input about, because I'm thinking if I want to do, for instance, an event for women, do I really need to include other non-binary and
No.
other kind of identities? And it might be confusing also because in Germany we have another term, it's Flinta, and I do events sometimes for Flinta people, answer. And sometimes I do events for women, and in that I would include trans women.
I
But
think I
for
understand your
like
question.
non-binary, I like.
I understand the question. I understand the question. You can do exactly as you wish, clearly, as long as you are clear about it in your language and your languaging for your offer. You can say this space is specifically for women for cis women. You can say cis women, and that's at least the English version of what you would say. You can say cis women, you can say or women and gender fluid people or femme-bodied people who will be served well by the content of this workshop. You can do exactly as you want. You can decide exactly what you want to do. And I know it's confusing, but you get to decide as a facilitator what you want to do and who you want to serve. Are there any?
And I don't know if maybe this is not a conversation for now, when is it legitimate to have an event only for women? Because I've seen some and I didn't like it. To have they had reasons to include only cis women that I didn't like.
Yeah,
But
and I
then
think
it would be helpful for me to have a conversation about it. Maybe not now, but
yeah. I don't know. I don't know the answer to this actually. Like, I know we can have like an extended conversation, and I wish we can have it now. But I think we need to jump into the room so we actually have adequate time for this. But I think it's a really good question, and it's worth exploring, you know, with communities and people outside of this group as well, including perhaps the people you serve, I imagine. It's a really good one. And I don't know if I really have the answer to that. Um, but I think it is based on your desire, and it has to be true to who you are. I think that would be an orienting principle for me, because you know you don't have to be politically correct in your service to be liked or to be, you know, to do the right thing. You only have to do what you want to do, and you still will get to be holding inclusive spaces. They just don't need to be gender inclusive, you know. They will be inclusive in other ways, and I think this is a good principle to follow. But I'm just gonna pause here on that note, and I'm just going to invite you to the practice just to make sure we have enough time and enough time to come back from it. So, in your rooms, each person will have a chance to be in 3 different roles, 3 different times, I think. Yeah. So, each person will get to be the person thinking, brainstorming about inclusive cues, and language for your specific identities. How will you make people comfortable? What do you imagine saying? Specific phrases, invitations, guidelines, suggestions, right? That would correspond to an inclusive environment in your for those identities of that you're working with. So we'll give you 5 minutes, just 5 minutes for each person to say, I might say something like this, right? Then the other person is just listening. You're kind of being guided. You're like, yeah, I'm testing this on my body. Okay. The other person is a witness who is writing this down. Yeah, and it just kind of is is being kind of the scribe, the person who is documenting and is remembering. You're remembering what is being said as a witness. And then the roles are switched. You may even have, like, if the 5 minutes have been more than enough, you may even have a little bit of time to say, yeah, this worked, or that language didn't quite work so well. But if you don't have time, we will give you time at the end of this practice to kind of discuss how did this work and how it didn't work. So you will have a chance to be in all of the roles: 5 minutes as a guide, 5 minutes as a recipient, 5 minutes as a witness, as a documenter, as a writer, witness. And so then the next person will become a guide, another person will be receiving. And it's not like you're going to be there like guiding practice. I don't mean you're going to be all of a sudden guiding it and making it fluid. And no, you're just going to be just doing it together. If you want to do it, you know, the guide can be the person who will be the most active, but then the other person who is like the recipient can also be saying, yes, this works, or yeah, I think this is a good idea, or no, this doesn't quite work in my body, right? So it's kind of a brainstorming session overall. It's not a guiding session. Do you know what I mean? So we're going to be in the room like that for 15, and then the last 5, or if I see you need more time, we will give you more time. But the last 5, after each person has been in all of the roles, will be for you as a group to say, okay, let's now harvest which were the jewels, like what were like the good, the well-working guiding language here or cues, and what maybe didn't work so well or was a little bit confusing, or, you know, just kind of have a group check-in, and then we're going to come back to the main room. Does this make sense? And we know which team is working on what identity or anchor, right? All right. Amazing. Let's do it. And Carmen and I are going to hop into the rooms, and I think Michelle went to lie down because she wasn't feeling well. Right. Wow. Such diverse and amazing cues were shared, and such amazing ideas were circulated. And I'd love to, and I know, our time is so limited now, but I would love to have some highlights. And what I'd love to invite you to do is, you all were the person who wrote. And so maybe if you were like, as the person who wrote things down, not as the person who suggested or experienced so much, but the person who wrote something down that you are like, wow, that really worked, or that was a really interesting contribution to the category, right? Like if you could just name that and tell us about it. Let's have a few highlights. Let's have a highlight from the racial and ethnic inclusivity team.
I'll get us going. So it was very interesting. One question that we want to put out there is the use of the word embrace. So we are here to embrace differences, different colors, our backgrounds. Is that a good word to use or not? Or does it imply that you're forcing people to accept? Like we're not here to do that. So I think my takeaway is maybe not to use the word embrace. And then another very important conversation that we had was in a ethnically diverse group, if we have a participant who is covering their hair, how to create a space for this person to, if they want to, remove the hijab or the scarf without forcing them, without putting on them our belief that, she should, you're here, you're free, you take it off, not to come off as being too pushy about removing it. Petra said something very interesting, that some women, they feel secure with this head covering, so maybe they don't want to remove it. So offering an invitation to participants who are covering their hair, acknowledging that we're all different, and but also at the same time finding a way to invite them to move their body, as well, to remind everyone that we're here to connect with our bodies, and we move as our bodies or feel natural to move. And if they feel like removing, to remove their head scarf. So we fumbled a bit with the right language, and we acknowledge that this is something we have to work on.
Can I pause? Yeah, okay. I'm going to pause you here because I think we also want to move with just several highlights, and I know we only have a few minutes, but that is such a key one. And I think that what I feel moved to say, I have to say this, I think that no woman who comes to a space, a facilitation with a hijab, will be ever willing to remove it. Not in an environment that, that would be my 2 cents. I think that inviting that could feel really unsettling, and an acknowledging of her identity. So I really, it's a really interesting question to raise, but I would give it a lot more thought, and I would research it more if I were to invite. And it's probably yeah, which is why it's unlikely the women who wear hijabs will come into white dominant spaces in general. But I do think that they're very that is their sense of identity to a huge extent. So yeah, what an amazing question. Yeah, thanks for bringing it up. What else?
On the
Uh,
mobility, disability, and access awareness, um, we found that it was feeling better for us to not speak about if you cannot move like normal people, or if you don't have, if your movement range is limited, like not to draw attention on the fact that there is a standard and you are not there, but
mhm.
just to speak more in a positive way, like saying there are very different range of movements, and what is important is how you are feeling while you're doing it. It's not important how broad you can do it, or how fast, or how does it look like when you do it.
Awesome. Thank you, Anna. Good one. Yes. What else? So that was the body access and disability, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Do we have one from the gender fluidity people, maybe?
Yeah, I can share. I think one thing that stuck out was just, am I audible? Can I
Yes.
be heard? Was just it was just a very conscious naming, moving through gender identities and labels, named very, very consciously, and almost like the full spectrum, as we would as though we're doing the full range of emotions, as well as sexual orientations, and to just, well, yeah, it's like the slow naming of any variation of what it could be. And it ended off with it was Mouse who offered her own identification. She said, I identify as da, 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 which it just offered a level of, like, you know, bravery and courage around, you could be any one of those, and this is what it could look like to just own it, right? So she didn't need to do that. But it landed well, the three of us.
Mm.
Then what else was there? There was Nina just offering to, with our eyes, move around the room and just take in these beautiful, diverse bodies,
Mm.
and to just, you know, receive each other at a very human level. I quite
Okay.
like the way she used the
Thank you.
word flavors, which was
Flavors.
you know, it's
Yeah.
not related to, it could be flavors of mobility, it could be flavors of skin color.
Okay. Thank you, Darren. Thank you so much. These were a couple of really good ones, right? Yeah. Yeah. Um, It's really like, just to say the center one of the things, I do think it's really important for the facilitator to name some of her, you know, like, so if you are facilitating a gender inclusive space and you say, I'm a queer woman who, whatever, it is instantly just like so much, you're creating such a possibility for relatedness, right? Instead of presenting as a cis woman or a, you know, straight woman, female presenting woman, but willing to also facilitate queer spaces. I think there's something about, you know, you naming something about your identity, or even saying, I'm a white woman, but, you know, I notice that we come of all bodies, ethnicities and races, right? So like naming something about yourself, I do think is centering. Is there any other highlights from maybe, or do we not have the body shape and size? Did we get that? I don't think we did. Andrea, Irmak, and who was there with you?
I can share, just because I didn't have time within the room, that Earmark was, well, first of all, I felt like all of ours built on each other, which was really a fun practice, and relating to plants and nature with Andrea, as seeing our physical form as this, you know, brilliantly diverse creature. And that's a part of an ecosystem where we can see all of this body diversity in the land. And then for Irmak, she brought in, you know, the concept of looking into the mirror and all of our ancestors looking back at us, and our bodies being an expression of that. And I thought that that was such a potent way of seeing our physical form in that way.
and
And yeah,
celebrating it. celebrating it as opposed to judging it or having, yeah. So beautiful. Wow. Wow.
Yeah. And I brought in a lot more of just kind of story, I think, around the stories we may carry about our bodies, and seeing now, feeling them from the inside as having, they are also our tools, our abilities, in a lot of ways. They carry us through this life. So
Yeah.
honoring.
Yeah, you had quite the room going there. You were all like just deeply guiding, and people were moving, and it was all happening. You were learning from the plants about the body shape and size, which is, yeah, really, really good ideas there. Carmen, did you want to add anything at all? Not to put you on the spot, but just in case you.
Well, just acknowledging that it's okay to be fumbling. I think we're here practicing, and there was such realness in the not quite knowing it yet, or being a little bit unsure of the words. And I think that's really important to do the uncomfortable work before we're working with the groups, because this is really a really important aspect of facilitating actual transformation is this inclusivity part. So if it feels uncomfortable, like do the work now with us together, because it's so important.
Yeah, yeah, and it's the stuff that will usually press your back against the wall, in rooms with people. These are the things that are going to challenge you the most, I think, in my experience, where
Yeah.
where I have felt most provoked or not unaware or not knowing how to handle something. Those have been the environments, environments of inclusivity. So the more we remove our blind spots around how race stands in the room with us, the more we remove our blind spots about like what, people who are not visibly disabled, but internally, as a couple of people said, invisible conditions, right? The more we remove those blind spots that we have, the more we can just open to love and acceptance and hold those spaces. All right, so yeah, I hope we've just stirred the pot a lot, and a lot has come up for food for thought and thinking and consideration. And you still have the pods, and you still have one thing I want to say about the pods before we close the call is that I really encourage you to presence with your respective pod teachers, what you'd love to explore in your next pod sessions, because the time is yours now, and the clock is ticking. And if you feel like something is really important, like I actually really want to work on my creative field intro, or I want to keep working on inclusivity, or like, you can really bring it up with your facilitators ahead of time so they can plan on that. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. I hope this was useful. You're amazing. You have really, really amazing ideas. And as always, you really inspire me. So thank you. And we will see you soon. You can unmute to say bye or anything you want, or just to exhale.
Bye.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Ciao.
Adios.
Adios.
Adios. Bye.
Adios.
Thank you.